I'm trying to explain. The thing I'm getting to is simply the idea that the people who say that Ripple is somehow your word, the devil, it's because we're partnering with the man. We decided if you want to enable an internet of value, you got to connect to the repositories of value, and the repositories of value are the banks. You only get paid once every 2 weeks.
I have not actually.
It's because of the friction of payroll processing. Decades ago, it was a chore to go process payrolls. Now think about the second and tertiary effects. If you got paid every day, or even kind of in a weird way, what if you got paid every hour?
Do we want to be the global leader? Because if we do, you point out Hong Kong, Singapore, there are places that seem to be putting out a welcome mat. And we're not. Can we actually lose our ability to lead the world? And would that be a negative for the United States?
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask. I think if you ask the SEC, I don't think they're that concerned about, or at least Gary Gensler doesn't seem particularly concerned about crypto projects leaving the United States. But yes, the issue is that even if the SEC were to continue its current approach, which I think most people agree is or most people in the crypto industry agree is relatively inefficient, there's now a lot of other places for crypto projects to go. So Dubai, Singapore, we've been hearing about these places for years, but there's kind of new players in town or revived players in town. As you mentioned, Japan is one example. Japan, and let's be clear here, Japan is very strict. It is not an easy place to do crypto business, but it's very clear. And so Japan kind of had a victory of its own when FTX collapsed and people all over the world were really worrying about it. Japan was very calm because FTX Japan was one of the only places that were able to give money back to their users. And this was a victory for Japanese regulation, which prevents commingling of assets, basically. There's separation of assets. So, an exchange can't just dip into the fund, into customer funds and do what they want with it. Japan also has very strict rules about, how crypto is stored. Majority of crypto on exchanges needs to be stored in something called wallets, which is a more secure form. So it's very strict. It's not easy, but it's allowed for protection of investors. Hong Kong also quite recently has been rolling out a new licensing regime for exchanges. Europe now, 27 member states will have a licensing regime for crypto firms. So again, what's interesting about this is these are not Wild West jurisdictions. These are jurisdictions with very clear, very difficult requirements, but I think for some projects, they'd still rather deal with that rather than make a mistake and spend years and millions of dollars fighting it out in a court.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And guys, when you listen to Brad Garlinghouse from the beginning, he's always stated he's working with the banks. And when we look at Ripple, they are aligned with all the NWO's goals, Cbdc'S, climate agenda. And the same thing goes for Stellar's XLM. We know when it came to Venezuela, we know XRP and XLM was used. When it came to Ukraine, we know Stellar's XLM and USDC was used. So guys, if they were using it then, we know that the technology works. If your own government is already using it, we know it's ready to go. But we know in the mainstream media and these articles, they're always testing. But we know the emerging markets are ready to flip that switch next year. And we know Jay Clayton and Gary Gensler, the NWO chess pieces, have brought in all these lawsuits in order to kick the regulation can down the road. But the United States will start regulation at the end of this year and next year, so therefore they can flip the switch in 2025. America is behind on purpose because they want the emerging markets to rise in the East, led by China and that digital yuan backed by that digital SDR. And guys, like I tell you, there's always moving pieces by the NWO. Now we have Texas doing an ETF on its economy. And guys, what's the next step? Tokenization. And who did we hear that first from? That's right. BlackRock's Larry Fink. Remember, guys, this fourth industrial revolution is going to move in phases. The ETF is the first move. So now they'll be able to tokenize it, and anyone in the world can own a piece of Texas. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Texas Capital launching the bank's first ETF focused on the state's economy. The index is called Texas Capital Texas Equity, with companies exclusively headquartered in the Lone Star State. It currently has $10 million under management. It's designed to reflect the performance of the Texas economy. Joining us now for an exclusive interview is a longtime J.P. Morgan executive and the president and CEO of Texas Capital, Rob Holmes. Rob, thanks for being here. So the index has 216 publicly traded companies, weights determined by sector and relative contribution to Texas's reported GDP, and then market cap. What's the use case for incorporating a Texas-oriented ETF in someone's portfolio? What's the gap that this is looking to solve?
Good morning, Leslie. Thanks. Good to see you again. Well, look, it's a super exciting morning. It's the first of its kind ETF ever, TXS on New York Stock Exchange. And what it allows everybody to do is invest in one of the most vibrant economies in the world. So the Texas economy, $2.4 trillion GDP, ninth largest in the world, second largest in the country, number one exporter for 21 years, $458 billion last year, of the second largest workforce, the youngest workforce. The economy in the fourth quarter last year grew at 14.8%, and the rest of the country grew at 2.6%. And for the year was 7% last year. So it's outsized growth. It's a very diverse economy now in Texas. Oil and gas is only 9%. So that's very different than years past. You have one of the fastest growing, most diversified economies in the world, and now everybody in the world has a chance to invest in it. And what it also does is attract.
Texas just fell out of the top 5 in America's top states for business here on CNBC for the first time, in a while.
Yeah, I saw that, and I appreciate the survey, and I respect it. I haven't really studied the questions, but just factually, those are the facts. I mean, today, if it's fallen out of the top 5, if you talk to the economic development team of the governor's office, they're currently talking to 2 times the number of companies to move to Texas to live, work, and invest here in our economy and our state. So I appreciate your survey, but factually, the net migration to Texas is number one. Job growth, 650,000 jobs last year. No other state has done that. So while the survey says one thing, the facts say something totally different.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it as a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like, say, ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC.
For those who don't know what CBDC is, what they want to do, and this is tied in with like Davos, World Economic Forum, all these people, they want the Fed, they want to get rid of cash, they want no cryptocurrency, and they want this to be the sole form of legal tender. And they have said this publicly at like Davos and these other places. It will allow them to prohibit, quote, undesirable purchases like fuel and ammunition.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate. Not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.